sometimes you need to add a non-traditional agreement into your database. So let's look at how to do that. First, we're going to go to District Agreements and add a new agreement. Now we have a few options here, and in some cases your non-traditional item that you need to put into your database is a declined agreement, in which case you could go right here. But all of these options can be viewed by going to Yes, we have an agreement. So I'm going to start right here. So typically what we do when we have a new agreement is that we search for it in the database. I'll use an example here. And then we decide whether or not we are using the national agreement, and then if we're the originator or subscriber, or if we have a vendor-specific agreement. So a vendor-specific agreement would be something that has material in or language in the Exhibit H of the agreement. If you have anything in that space of your DPA, make sure that you add it in as a vendor-specific agreement. That will notify all other districts that this is not a traditional agreement, and they have to read it carefully and get it approved by their legal team before piggybacking onto it. So if you choose the vendor-specific agreement piece, this is going to follow the exact same procedure as adding a normal NDPA. Now, the final types are going to be over here in other types of agreements. The main two types that I'm going to discuss here would be found under the agreement type, and they would be declined or in use no agreement. There are some other instances where you could have a unique agreement that could fall under district modified or self-hosted, but in our experience, declined and in use no agreement are the two most common. Now let's say again we choose our sample resource here. Let's choose that I can help, and this was declined. Where you're going to want to have this in your database so that other individuals looking at your district specific agreements page can see that these apps have been reviewed, but they have been declined. So in order to add those in, you would follow the steps we've gone through here and choose the agreement type of declined. From that point forward, everything else is the same as it was for the other process, but this will put it into your database as declined. The last option here that I see a lot is in use no agreement. And the scenario that we're talking about here would be situations where perhaps a tool is allowed to be used in your district because it falls under the exemption of not being a resource that is targeted to K-12 education. So you may be letting your community know that, hey, we can use GoFan because it falls under that general audience exclusion. The other scenario is when you do approve the use of a tool, but you want to make sure that your teachers and students know that they cannot create they cannot use their Google, Microsoft, or whatever accounts in order to use it. So perhaps they need to use a free version of it. Or in some cases, you may be providing that resource with anonymous student data, and you need to make it clear that they cannot create their own accounts, but that anonymous accounts are being created for them. So in cases like that and others, you may want to use that in use but no agreement tag.